welcome Jeff Solow again. All right.
Cellist Jeffrey Solow, a professor at Temple University in Philadelphia, recently performed Shostakovich's first cello concerto with the Princeton Symphony Orchestra.
He's a great soloist, but more importantly, he's a pedagogue, and to have the gift of both is a genuine gift.
The Princeton Symphony also sponsored Solow in a master class for some of the area's most talented high school students.
So Lalo actually wants you to hear the difference between the measures that are ad libitum and the measures that are a tempo.
We want to keep alive the art of live performance.
I'm out here in New Jersey, so how about and then I have a master class in the afternoon. I started playing when I was 7, but at that time I had no intention to become a professional cellist. It was just one of the other things that I did. When I was 15 and went to the Music Academy of the West in Santa Barbara, California, we played Brahms' First Symphony, and it really hit me, made a huge impression. My mother had been trained as a professional violinist, and she was a studio violinist. My father was a very expert amateur pianist, so there was a high level of music available to me in my house. And then Los Angeles was a real mecca for musicians. Jascha Heifetz had moved there, Gregor Piatigorsky moved there, Artur Rubinstein had moved there, Igor Stravinsky lived there, Arnold Schoenberg, so you had composers and players.
Solow even played chamber music with the legendary violinist Jascha Heifetz.
I was Heifetz's New Year's Eve string quartet cellist for several years. The two teachers that I spent the most time with when I was a student were Gabor Rajto, a Hungarian cellist who had moved to the United States in the 40s, I believe it was, whose main teacher was Pablo Casals. I think it was probably about 8 years with Gabor Rajto. Then I studied with Gregor Piatigorsky, the great Russian cellist. The thing that particularly Piatigorsky brought was the idea that the most important aspect of playing an instrument is to communicate with the people that are listening to you.
To play espressivo where it belongs, without fear that you are out of style, because that fear, to be pure.
And he felt that if you did have something clear that you wanted to express, that would lead you to develop the means to express it on the instrument.
For sure, Jeffrey Solow found those means. In his early 20s, he got a rave review from the New York Times after his Carnegie Hall debut, and he soon found himself managed by classical music's most famous impresario, Saul Hurok. But he had reservations.
Even though I looked very natural and comfortable, I didn't feel like I was in consistent control of the result. I would ask colleagues of mine, they say, oh, everybody feels that way, but from watching other people play, I felt like, no, I don't think everyone really does feel that way. And so then I started to think very deeply about how you actually play an instrument. I didn't have my act together in lots of ways until my 30s, because that was the time when I started really exploring physically how I should be playing the cello in ways that I wasn't. I think that when you go from the F sharp, you don't want to have silence as you go there, so I think you want to just go smoothly. And I think think you have to, even though it can be free rhythmically, you have to still feel the rhythm.
These struggles have led to understandings he's uniquely able to share with students.
Throughout the years studying with him, I have developed a sense of what it actually feels to play loose and to be able to be present at the moment when you're playing.
I mean, now one of my favorite analogies is the Olympic Games, that when you watch somebody do any Olympic sport, everyone has precisely the same form for doing that sport. People have figured out the most efficient way of doing everything. The thing that makes it much more complicated, I think, with a musical instrument is that it's both an art and an athletic skill, because even though it's on a very small playing field, really learning to play the cello is not just learning what it's supposed to sound like, but learning what it's supposed to feel like to play. And therein lies the great difficulty, because if you've never felt something, how do you know what it's supposed to feel like? What's happening is that this is so close to the string that it actually is touching. Okay, so that's one thing that I noticed in vibrato. And while I feel like when I approach giving a master class, there's kind of two aspects that I'm thinking of. One is how I can help the student that's playing for me. So if you hold it looser, so every up bow allows flexibility. And another is how I can say things that are general enough that the people that are listening in the audience can also profit from it. And here's a little experiment that everyone can do. Leave your hand dangling and shake your arm so that your hand moves back and forth. While you're doing that, if you start squeezing your thumb against your second finger, you'll see that immediately it locks together.
It's just as nerve-wracking as his performance, because you know that the people in the audience are very knowledgeable.
Well, I guess it's kind of even more difficult than a performance, because not only do you have to perform how you would play it, but then you also have to make the adjustments that the teacher suggests.
Anyone who's studying an instrument has a one-to-one relationship in an hour a week that, you know, is not replicated anywhere else in the study of anything. So it's a very valuable thing to do.
That's a place where you can really make a different color.
Being in middle school, there's a kind of innocence that he brought to the class, which I thought was kind of refreshing. I mean, it was just showing of what he loved to do, play the cello. The experience of the music itself, you get in when you play it, you get inside of it in a way that you don't when you're listening. It's just magical. There's no way to describe it unless you've experienced it. I think studying a musical instrument is a wonderful thing on many levels. Certainly learning the self-discipline that comes with it and the rewards that come out of that self-discipline. And the end result is a musical experience that is absolutely thrilling. And especially when that comes as a teenager, I think it can be a life-changing event.